the United
Yeah.
States of America,
of America,
to the republic
Republic,
for which it
which
stands,
stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
uh,
indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty,
with
and
liberty and
justice for all.
justice for all.
Okay, we're not going to do that again because it was throwing me off a little
was
bit
very
because you guys were totally out of sync.
Yeah.
Not your fault, but okay. First up are just some public announcements. There will be a public hearing regarding the Verizon Cable TV franchise agreement Monday, September 15th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in Village Hall. There will be a public hearing regarding proposed grant application to the Westchester County Complete Streets Municipal Assistance Program for the Irvington Train Station Connectivity Project. Monday, September 15th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in Village Hall. I believe that grant covers sidewalks near Astor and Buckeye. Okay. Next is announcement of checks over $25,000. There is a check to Those Guys Contracting for various village excavation, repair, and restoration projects. $28,867.97 for general water and sewer. There is a check for Petrillo Contracting Inc. for milling and paving of roads disturbed by the July 14th flood event. That was $58,349.26. There is a check to JC Land and Site Development Inc. for the Matheson Park Stage. Two checks actually to JC Land and Site Development and the Matheson Park Stage. One for Matheson Park Stage, the other for Matheson Park Stage Electrical. The first for the stage itself is $56,100.05. Second for the electrical is $45,635.63. Okay, we are now on correspondence. I'm going to may have to group them into three, but let's see what we got. The first two pertain to the military banners, and we received a number of questions regarding why the banners came down and what the policy is regarding those banners. We have discussed that at public meetings before. I'm sorry if the folks who, one letter was from Patricia Picado, and the other was from Jerry Betances. The short answer is we have discussed the policy before, which is to put it up for Memorial Day and take it down after July 4th. And do it and put it up again for Veterans Day, before Veterans Day, and take it down after that. My personal view of this is, let me first start with having polled the village officials committee, which is the other mayors in all these local villages and all the other village administrators. There is no one policy. They do all kinds of things on this particular issue. Very few of them keep them up the whole time. And while I won't say, actually, it is my personal opinion that by doing what we do, it is actually a greater sign of respect for the veterans. It will preserve the flags for a longer period of time, and we are taking the trouble to put them up and take them down twice. I know people may feel differently about that, and I don't know if anybody else wants to comment who's online or here. On the board, that is, public comment will follow shortly, and anybody say what they want to about that. No?
I'll just note that because Arlene and I were on the board when it was first proposed, and Arlene, please correct me if I'm wrong, but when the five on the board then discussed it, everyone was in favor of putting the banners up, and I believe everybody agreed that the time frame that we thought was most appropriate was over the holidays that were dedicated to the military, because we don't really put anything up all year other than the American flag. Obviously, it's different. We don't put anything up, for the whole year or a big chunk of the year. The Christmas tree isn't up except for around Christmas, and the snowflakes aren't up in the spring. And we put things up at the time of year that they're appropriate. That's why we decided to do that.
Yeah, I agree. That was a rationale, and I think preserving the flags is.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
Okay. The next letter is from Timothy Barry. It pertains to not Half Moon North Co-op, but basically parking of commuters along South Buckout. And there are, a request was made in this submission that we create some kind of a parking pass for the residents. I assume that means that they would have priority to be able to park in their own spot. And there's a comparison made to some of what's done in the Main Street area. I can't answer the technical aspects of this because I know that, or I believe that in order to get some of the, I'll call it parking pass arrangements through previously required going to the state legislature.
Yeah.
Said that when the village administrator returns, he is away, as you see for this particular meeting. I'm happy to discuss.
John?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, John, on that, I checked the law on it, it is a, actual section of the vehicle and traffic law that says that the village can create, their parking district. And
Okay.
in the legislation, it defines the borders. And, the northern border is, Station Road.
but you're referring
So-
to the existing parking district that was established by this. by
Right,
statute.
right.
Okay.
And you can only do it because of this, this amendment to the state vehicle and traffic law. So in order to change it, you have to, get another bill through the legislation, whatever. Right now it's defined and you don't have the authority to, make it a residence only district at the moment without
Got it.
changing, without
All right,
getting it
well-
back to the legislature.
Thank you for jumping in. I don't know why I didn't ask you to begin with, because you're the one here who has the expertise, but I will at least discuss it with Larry and Charles, who is his successor, and we'll see what we want to do or what we can do, if anything. The next couple of letters or emails from William Rush, Tess Clarkin, Adam Luksha, Clement Jolane, and R.E. Ruse. And there is also one that came in late from Brian Cesarato. I hope I'm getting the pronunciation correctly. That basically expressed concerns about the traffic on South Buckout. And
By Main Street though, not where we're just talking.
correct.
Between Main Street and Astor.
Correct, where Astor comes up, yeah. And some of them have suggestions that perhaps it should be one way. They talk about accidents that I assume some of them have witnessed, and suggestions about what might we do to make it a safer location. I am more than happy to refer this to the chief, because I don't think anybody in this room has the traffic expertise, and he does have people who can study this. And we have a traffic calming committee, so I would also want them engaged because they have looked at problems in other areas and come up with some good suggestions. So I will.
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
So again, Arlene and I were the only ones on the board. This came before the board about 3 years ago. And there was an independent study done that showed the number of accidents in the area. And it was quite modest. There wasn't a lot of accidents. The board was open to doing it, but at the time, we got a lot of correspondence from local people saying that they did not want it to be.
Yeah, and we've had a few in opposition in the recent past as
Right.
well.
So I think at the time, what we decided was, well, without the local population clamoring for it, it would seem like we'd be imposing against what they wanted.
Yeah.
And we decided to let it be for now. Not that it had to be forever, but if it seems like there's an overwhelming desire for it, we could revisit.
But the proposal was make it one way, as opposed to could you do a speed bump or something else. There may be interim measures. I got it. The other thing I would, I'll be real quick. The other thing that I would ask, hard to ask somebody to have patience when they're trying to deal with what they view as speeding, but for the moment, Station Road is closed, and I'm sure that changes the traffic pattern in that area. I can't tell you how, but it is likely that the response I get from the chief and everybody else looking at this is give us 30 days to fix that bridge. And then when you're looking at it, you're getting an accurate take on what's happening at this moment. That doesn't mean that past statistics aren't relevant, but there is there is some impact of not having Station Road function.
Yeah, I think the other concern that came up was that if it was made a one-way, that the speeding would actually be worse
Yeah,
on
that's
that
right.
street, so
Yeah.
a lot of people had that opinion. So I think maybe it would be a good in-between to sort of figure out if there are ways to monitor the traffic. I agree with you, I remember that the incidents were reported were very low. So it didn't seem that that was an issue that was overwhelming, convincing at the time. But maybe we need to look at other things to, I know we do this in other places where we put the speed monitor.
Yes.
And just to kind of get a sense, but we can study it, I think, maybe again.
I think there's two issues, right? There's the objectively, scientifically, it's not a high accident area, but it doesn't mean that qualitatively for the people who drive on it, that it's not uncomfortable for other reasons. So I think that's the second part is certainly valid. And that's where what Arlene says came in and what you said came in. If there's a way to measure what's going on and then find a way to make it a more drivable street, it doesn't have to be a one-way street to make it more safer.
Okay, so I just summarized that. This is the public comment moment. You've been sitting patiently, so if it's relevant to any one of those topics, have at it. You just need to, we normally limit to 3 minutes and we have a huge meeting, post-meeting coming, so I will ask you to do your best to get close to that and just tell everybody who you are.
I think I'll be around 3 minutes. So thank you so much. Brian and Mercedes Cesarato, you referenced our letter to the board. Thank you for reading it. Thank you for responding to me last Friday as well. We've owned the home at 17 South Buckout Street, which sits in the middle of South Buckout Street for the last 50 years. And during that time, what we've seen on an everyday basis on the street is increased congestion in terms of car traffic, both the volume of the traffic as well as the speed of the traffic, as well as the fact that it's the main thoroughfare to Main Street from the communities on Station Road and further on South Buckout Street. And so not only is there increased car traffic, but there's also increased pedestrian traffic. It's our strong view that making the street a one-way street is the correct decision to improve the safety of those who both live on the street as well as those who use the street. Which is
Sorry, just out of curiosity, I assume you're saying one way towards Main Street?
no one way from.
Oh,
We agree with the traffic study. The traffic
Yeah.
study recommends southbound from Main
Okay.
Street toward Astor Street.
Got it.
We think that's absolutely the correct decision, and I'll explain why in a minute. But there's 3 reasons essentially: safety, which is speed and volume of traffic; property damage, which is the fact that 2 cars cannot pass at the same time. One has to pull over. And as a result of that, everybody's car on the street is continually damaged. Ours has been damaged. Our cars have been damaged multiple times. Personally seen other cars damaged multiple times and spoken to others who've had their cars damaged. So, and just as background as to why I'm here, which is I understand, originally with the 2018 plan, there was a recommendation to study making the street a one-way street. There was the board did the study, commissioned the study by the independent study in 23. I got a letter from Mr. Schopfer, which I'm happy to share with the board in October 23. And since that time, I've been on the phone with him multiple times over the course of the years and discussing with him the issues. So Mr. Siegel, the reason I sent you the letter again on Friday is because I understood that the board was going to talk about it tonight, and I wanted to ensure that you had my letter, and so I would have the opportunity to talk to you about it today. It's our personal view. It's not just about those folks who live on the street. It's about those who walk on the street, who use the street, and drive the street. So on the safety issues, the cars come down the hill off of northbound, off of Astor, where the street is very wide in front of the DPW. It's a double lane. It's natural to pick up speed, and they hit speeds of well in excess of the speed limit 40 to 50 miles per hour. And then the street narrows suddenly. And many folks who drive don't know that the street narrows. And all of a sudden you're in a bottleneck and you hit the bottom of the road. I've personally almost been hit multiple times trying to get in and out of my car. It's not safe to get in and out of your car because you open the door and then the cars are coming by in both directions. And most recently that happened to me around the holidays last year. You literally have a mere few seconds if you're crossing the street to cross with the speed. And if you're not paying attention, you can be hit by a car because you just don't see them as of how quickly they. So anecdotally, in terms of what we've seen on the street and our personal experience, it is a big safety issue. And it is not just about enforcement or police department. That's not the question. The structure of the street is such that it should be a one-way street, just like North Buckout is. In fact, North Buckout, South Buckout, we would say, has a much greater reason to be one way because of the volume of the traffic, because of all the community south, and the fact that folks use that as a direct way to and from Main Street. Some of the accidents have involved cars going up on the sidewalk and onto the lawn. That did happen at 16 South Buckout Street because the car came down, tried to avoid another car and ended up on the lawn, which is why we say that it's very important for the pedestrians for safety. The narrowness of the street. 2 cars cannot pass at the same time. And what happens is that the cars pull over suddenly and they look for gaps in the street to get out of the way. And that puts all the pedestrians who are walking, the kids, the strollers, the dog walkers, at risk because those cars have to pull over to let other cars go by, and they tend to go right up. They look for breaks in the street where there's a curb, and they pull right up to the sidewalk or onto the sidewalk. So speed, the narrowness of the street, we see no reason it should be treated any differently than North Buckout. We think that the traffic study is correct, that it should be a one-way street going southbound. Which just in our personal view, we know that the fire and police and ambulance trucks use that. They come down Main Street and they go southbound. They don't go northbound, almost all of it. Lastly, just quality of life. Because the community is a small community. We all know each other. The letters that you've received and the folks that I've spoken to all are pretty much in agreement that something should be done. We think that it should be a one-way street. We shouldn't have to worry about putting our cars on the street and worry that they're going to be damaged. We shouldn't have to worry about our safety as we look to cross the street and go to and from where we have to go. So we think that you have our letter, you have the other letters, you have the traffic study, and we'd urge the board to either make a decision to do it one way, or if that's not in your power and you have to hold a hearing, we think that there should be a public hearing where everybody can come in and express their views and be a deliberation. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
As I said, my first stop is likely to be with the chief, so I can get the police reports and see the actual descriptions. I understand there will probably have been things that didn't get reported, like somebody gets a mirror ding or something like that. But I do appreciate the sort of list that you gave us, and we'll see what we can do.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, I'm aware of the tunnel being closed, but these are things that go bad.
Yeah,
It's a long-term, just a long-term path.
I was only referring to the possibility that if they were going to sit out there and monitor, this probably is not the right time because you're not going to get a real.
No, if you want to do monitoring of the speed, put up a monitoring after school starts.
Mm-hmm.
Folks are going to and from, trying to get to and from their business. It's not the summertime, but that's my idea. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Anything online?
No one online.
Okay. Next up is the consent agenda. We have the minutes of the regular meeting, appointment of personnel, events at Racket Parks, approval of out-of-town travel, police department approval of 2025 budgets and modifications. Anything you want to tell us about the latter? I mean, it's pretty
The
straightforward.
budget transfers and modifications, all those salary adjustments, those were all adopted towards the very end of May. So this is just the approval of the entry to move the funds that were budgeted in contingency into the appropriate lines.
Okay, got it. Then I move that we adopt the consent agenda. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
The late eyes when it's.
It's all right, we'll wait. Okay, next up is the statement against anti-Semitism. So we've had a reasonable amount of debate about tolerance and acceptance. There aren't very many people against that in this community. And in the past, a sort of passionate request that the board adopt some sort of statement on anti-Semitism. We were given specific language, but more recently, there was a New York Times editorial on the subject that prompted discussion by the board. And this was sort of our collective approach to it. I don't know if anybody else wants to add. We are not singling out a particular type of bad behavior, in this case, anti-Semitism. We expect tolerance and we expect decent behavior among everybody who is in Irvington or passing through Irvington. But in this case, we at least wanted to acknowledge our support for this. Now, anyone else want to add anything?
Okay, I think what also it's important to say is that while statements of support are important, I think for the board, it's important that we have actions, right? And I think that this is something that has been important to the boards that we sat on before this board and this board. I think it's a continual thing that we don't tolerate hate speech, acts of hate, right? So I think in particular, this was brought to we had this discussion and she brought this article, this editorial from the New York Times. And I think it's important for us to acknowledge it in this moment, but it's important, I think more important to say that the behavior, the actions that we're willing to take to make sure that people feel welcomed in this community, that they feel safe in this community, that I think is what is very important to follow up, and it's something that the board is committed to.
And sort of in support of what you were just saying, there is a line in here, and it did come from the editorial, but I think it captures the sentiment of the board, and that is that an increase in anti-Semitism often accompanies a rise in other hateful violence and human rights violations. The point isn't just about anti-Semitism, it's, as you said, about not tolerating hateful behavior in general. And if you tolerate one, you're basically opening the door to the others. Anybody else want to say something?
We said a lot about it last time. I think I'm good.
Okay, no problem. Then let me read. My motion is, whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Irvington has expressed in its statement on tolerance, first issued November 21, 2016, has stated it will never tolerate discrimination of any kind in our village, and has publicly denounced all such acts that seem to be occurring with more frequency in New York and our nation. And whereas a New York Times editorial dated June 14, 2025, has observed, based on its analysis of FBI data and other sources, that the United States is experiencing its worst surge of anti-Jewish hate in many decades. Anti-Semitic hate crimes more than doubled between 2021 and 2023, according to the FBI, and appear to have risen further in 2024. On a per capita basis, Jews face far greater risks of being victims of hate crimes than members of any other demographic group. An increase in anti-Semitism often accompanies a rise in other hateful violence and human rights violations. And anti-Semitism is coming from all sides of the political spectrum. And whereas the board wishes to publicly denounce all acts of anti-Semitism and affirm that it will not tolerate any acts of anti-Semitism in Irvington, now therefore be it resolved, the board affirms and acknowledges that the board stands with the Jewish community and opposes and condemns any and all forms of anti-Semitism. And further, resolved, the board is committed to identifying actions to support the Jewish community in Irvington to prevent and address any acts of anti-Semitism in our community, These actions can include collaborating with local leaders in the Jewish community, consulting with faith leaders within the Jewish community, and supporting regional, countywide, and statewide law enforcement efforts. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next up is a renewal of the intermunicipal agreement with Westchester County regarding mutual aid and rapid response. Basically, it allows the chief of police, the village administrator, and the mayor to request help from other Westchester communities. And since it's renewal, I'm not going to go through the entire document. Does anybody have any questions about this? No? Okay. Then my motion is resolved to approve an intermunicipal agreement with Westchester County regarding a mutual aid and rapid response plan for the period July 31, 2025 through July 30, 2030, which has been reviewed by the village attorney and to authorize the village administrator to execute said agreement. Do I have a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, let's see. Approval of village administrator's employment agreement. This this is the new village administrator who will start September 8th. And it reflects the terms that we previously approved in terms of salary and vacation. Does anybody on the board have any questions about the content of the agreement? I think you've all seen it. So, then I will make a motion to, motion is resolved to approve an employment agreement between the Village of Irvington and Village Administrator Charles Hestel. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Creation of an appointment of TOD zoning advisory committee. So we received a grant to study the possibility of establishing a transit-oriented development zone. And the grant requires, in effect, a good cross-section of members of the community, including planners, real estate, planning board, ZBA, and we have captured that, including attorneys, folks involved in local commerce. You will note that this provides for a term to expire December 2025. That is just sort of standard procedure because we will have an organizational meeting December 2025. And while I won't probably, and neither will you, be there, you will then reappoint everybody for a full term.
I think there's one person missing actually from that list, just Catherine Medina, who is KM Aesthetics.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I apologize. I can give you more, but it's Catherine Medina.
Okay.
Just she'd be appointed as a member. So, you know what? I'll add it when I go through. Thank you. I
Yes.
thought I had double and triple checked. Apparently not.
Katie, I forwarded you her, like her email saying.
Oh,
she's
perfect.
interested,
Okay.
that she was
Okay.
accepted.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll add her in
Yeah.
in minutes.
Yeah. So let me go through. Unless anybody has questions, I will read through this. My motion is resolved that the zoning advisory committee is what it's called, the committee, defined as the committee, is hereby established to oversee the development of a transit-oriented development zoning code and district. The committee will generate ideas and build consensus, provide a professional project team with relevant input, reflective of the community's current conditions and regulatory environment, review materials prepared by the professional project team if applicable, and provide constructive feedback. The committee will also support public participation and outreach efforts and assist the professional project team in integrating the transit-oriented development zoning code into the existing municipal code. And further resolve to appoint the following volunteer members to transit-oriented development committee for a period to expire December 2025. In that resolution, it ought to just say members to the committees or zoning advisory committee, not transit-oriented development, because we defined it up top. You got that? Okay. And since Catherine was left out, we're going to make her first. The members are Catherine Medina, Mike Aziz, Larry Lonke, Cesar Manfredi, Sarah Gardner, Deb Flock, Aluro Timi, Acapo, Michael Hanna, Chet Kerr, Julia Steinmetz, and Gail Katzman. Thank you to everybody involved. You will get a letter of appointment, and I think the process will probably pick up in September. Okay. Next up is approval of contract 2025
Do you want to vote on?
Oh, so sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought
Sorry.
maybe we didn't. I was
No, you absolutely do have to vote. That was my motion. Does anyone want to second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. See,
Aye.
I needed you on the right for that.
It's disruption.
Okay. Approval of contract with Nolan Landscape Architects, PLLC. If I'm not mistaken, Katie, and hopefully you know the answer to this, they are actually our village attorney will know. They are the current landscape architects. Would that be correct?
Yeah, they've been doing it for a few years now.
Okay. So we're pretty much renewing their arrangements, and they work for the planning board. Anybody have questions? All right. Resolved. My motion is resolved to approve contract 2025-24 with Nolan Landscape Architects, PLLC, for landscape architectural services, and to authorize the village administrator to execute said contract. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Next up is the authorizing a tax cert settlement at 25 South Dutcher. I assume this is just part of a larger settlement with, that Greenberg has arranged, and our impact looks to be $345.
Yes, this is a relatively small one compared to other tax or settlements
Okay.
we've had. But it's at the recommendation of the attorney Ed Lammers, who reviews them. So he recommended that we approve this.
Got it. Okay. If there are no questions, I will make the following motion. Whereas petitions have been filed by Stephen Ivkosik, hereafter petitioner challenging real property tax assessments on the village of Irvington and the town of Greenberg's assessment rolls with respect to the subject property for the 2022 assessment years with respect to parcels designated as parcel ID 2.80-32-22. And then property owner is Stephen Ivkosik, 25 South Dutcher Street, and the assessment year is 2022. Whereas petitioner's actions are now pending in Supreme Court, Westchester County, and whereas the town and the petitioner have reached a mutually agreeable resolution, now therefore the village is authorized to effectuate a settlement commensurate with the following terms. For assessment year 2022, the original assessment was $844,100. The revised assessment is $800,000. The reduction is $44,100. And the village of Irvington share of the refund is $345.88. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We had a resignation of an alternate member of the planning board, so accepting, I know you're not making.
That's for Mitch to second.
Yeah. And the resolution is resolved to accept with regret the resignation of Naomi Friedman as the first alternate planning board effective August 6th, 2025. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I wasn't gonna do it, Ted. I wasn't.
Okay. Now for the fun part here. Bond resolutions to implement the 2025 capital budget. So, yes.
Do you need a reader? Do you want me to read or something?
My proposal is we read one, and then we can talk about the differences after that. See how long I can hold out to read through this one. So,
I would make the argument that this was all made public in advance.
yeah, I hear you. I may summarize some of
Yeah.
it. So, bottom line is we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tranches of bond resolutions. And the reason they are broken up like that is that the bonds will extend for different periods related to the useful life of the items that are being bonded.
Correct.
Okay. Thank
And
goodness.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily, so like there's one, which has a useful life of 40 years. It doesn't necessarily mean, that we'll borrow for the full 40. Usually if we do short-term borrowings, it'll follow these useful lives for the pay downs. But then when we do roll it all into a bond, they take usually like a weighted average.
Oh, that's interesting. That I
For the
did not know.
bond pay down period.
Got it. Okay. There is, I think you've effectively answered this, but there is no legal requirement that when you roll it from this into a permanent financing, that you extend it out for the full life?
You can't borrow for longer than the life, but you can
You borrow
borrow
for
for
less.
shorter than the
Got it.
life.
Okay. Thank you.
And I just want to note again, to take some pressure off of you, not just was this available, everything that's in here has already been spoken about multiple times at the meeting and voted on and approved by the board. This is a procedural move to implement what the board has already discussed. And
Good. All right. So I will summarize.
yes.
So first tranche authorizes the issuance of up to $310,000.
And that's for the elevator replacement design for the theater and the water department service line survey investigation.
Got it. And basically, the board determines that it's in the public interest for us to borrow this amount. We authorize the village to do that. We determine that the project is a specific object or purpose of a class, and then it references the useful life of 5 years. And we confirm that the estimated maximum cost is $310,000. We're referencing a local finance law. And that we pledge the faith and credit of the village for the payment of the bonds. And you have to publish a notice. We have to comply with Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law and applicable federal laws. And that we declare our intention to issue the obligations to finance the cost of the project. And this bond resolution takes effect immediately upon its adoption by the board of trustees of the village. So I will, what is the board's preference for us to do these in one shot, or you want to do them one at a time? Do you need that broken up to give to somebody certified, like one at a time?
Yes,
All right.
yeah.
So my motion is to adopt the first bond resolution for $310,000 that covers the items that the village clerk identified. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. The second category is the issuance of up to $700,000 aggregate principal, not serial bonds, to finance the cost of acquisition, construction, and reconstruction of improvements to village sidewalks and curbs. And again, we confirm the max project is $700,000 and the maximum maturity is 10 years.
And that's for the DPW sidewalk curb projects and the South Buckout Street sidewalk
Got it.
project.
And in this case, and I don't think it did this in the last one, it references the possibility that the project will not exceed $1,381,000 as opposed to the flat 700,000, and that we are using some of our own resources as opposed to borrowed resources to do these projects potentially.
Yes, or if there was a grant,
Got it.
that wording would cover that too.
Okay. So my motion is to adopt this resolution for $700,000 with a 10-year useful life for the items that the village treasurer mentioned. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. The third tranche is for $1,791,000 for with an estimated cost in this case of 2.2 million. And it looks like it's for roads, park and rec, and machinery, and it's got a 15-year useful life.
So the projects covered under that bond resolution are the purchase of the street sweeper, the Ardsley Avenue West Drainage Project, Matheson Park Stage, and the purchase of the police department's public safety barriers.
So my motion is to adopt this resolution to borrow 1,791,000. It's the one identified as 14C with the useful life of this one for
15 years.
about 15 years. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The next one is for the fire truck. And it is a $1 million aggregate principal amount. And I think the cap is $1 million too. Yes, the estimated maximum cost is $1 million. I think that's probably because we've already created the details for the truck. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
the specs and the design were part of a separate funding, and this is for the truck itself.
Okay, it's good to see it's got an anticipated, even if it's only in the financing side, 20-year useful life. So I will make a motion to adopt this particular resolution designated as 14D for $1 million for the fire truck with firefighting apparatus with a 20-year life. Do I have a second?
So-
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next one is for $560,000 with a 25-year useful life. It's 560 with a maximum cost, I think it was 775, and it's for 775,000. It's for village building improvements.
These projects are the senior center solar panels, the senior center transfer switch, and the fire department building safety upgrades. And all three of these, we're not borrowing for until the following year, but we're doing the resolution to approve it. in
You've
advance.
anticipated my question because I think the solar panel one will require legislative approval because we are technically alienating parkland, even though it may go over a parking lot. But our state legislators seem to be willing to cooperate on that particular issue, but it is a technicality that has to be satisfied. So I would not want to borrow the money before we do that. So my motion is to adopt the resolutions under the label 14E for $560,000 with a 25-year life and maximum cost for these projects of $775,000. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next one is under designated as 14F. It's for $1,583,000 for construction and reconstruction of improvements to village culverts, which we seem to have going on in a lot of locations. It's got a 30-year useful life, and the maximum cost of the project is $5,115,000. Anything else you want to tell me about that one?
So the difference between the bond and the maximum cost is all of the grants that we've received.
Great.
And the culverts that this covers is Downingwood Broadway, West Sunnyside, and Riverview Circle Broadway. And then all three of these also won't be borrowed until following year.
Got it. Okay. All right. So my motion is to adopt the resolutions labeled 14F for $1,583,000. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I sense you're losing patience. Okay. 14G, bond resolution for $100,000. Maximum price, I think also $100,000. It's a 40-year useful life. And it is for the water system. Anything in particular or?
The description is poor investigation and crest restoration.
Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution designated as 14G for $100,000?
You're making.
I'll make the motion, sorry. Do I have a second? See, you threw me off. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay. So I think we are now segueing to a work session discussion of a Chamber of Commerce request for the use of Matheson Park for a event that they want to hold, which they did last year, I think, in the parking lot
Yep.
there. You think in attendance.
I played the unbelievably important role of judging the costumes.
Yes, there's a lot of pressure with that.
I wanted to judge.
So my only concern is how they managed to do this without just shutting a public park. So if they have a designated area, actually I may have other concerns when they give us a little more detail, but this is sort of their initial for a and I don't think we can take a public park and say to somebody, okay, you can block the gate and charge people to enter. I know we do that for Rocktoberfest, but that's a village event. And I would argue that there's a distinction to be made between the village doing it and a private organization. So perhaps the best way to do this is I'll ask, and anybody else may have comments, but I'll ask Larry, can you find out how they plan to not block the entire park? Because if someone comes in and says, just want to use the park, I don't want to go to your event, you can't tell them they can't. Because I don't think you should be able to tell them you can't do it.
I mean, I think the other thing is, I know in their proposal, there's police officer, park staff, or
thank you.
cleanup and all of that. So I'm assuming they would, obviously, they're charging for their event, they would have to cover those costs.
Okay.
But I do think, you know, we would have to think about whether we would allow people to rent the park, right? And have a private event and close off the park, which we have not done.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to say no, it's supposed to be a public park.
Yeah.
You know, and I would, even in the context of Rocktoberfest, the kids area, for example, blocked off. And I think there might have even been a separate charge, so I can't remember. But yeah, so it is possible to do that within the park without just taking the whole park away from it. But I understand they're trying to do something nice, but they're also raising money for their own organization, which I support, but not necessarily by using public resources.
Joking aside, having been there last year, because I was there for
Yeah.
a big chunk of the event, right? Two things that I would say that might be helpful is one is it was an extremely well attended event, and that's good for the village, right? Because it wasn't just people
Yep.
from Irvington, it brought people from all around. And we should consider that. The other thing is, to your point, John, is knowing the space that they had it in, there is, in my mind, I'm not planning the event,
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, in my mind, there is plenty of room to hold the event somewhere in the park without closing the park.
Yeah.
If they don't need a playground, they don't need a lot of things. So
Yeah.
if they would have taken an area towards the back, and we could get some help, we could help them, you know, I'm sure we have equipment to help block off an area so that they can charge, it wouldn't preclude, I think, you know, in my mind, having seen it, it would fit nicely into a section of the park so that we wouldn't be closing the park to the public.
Okay. And look, if they need barriers from us or something, we probably
Yeah.
have some.
That's what I'm saying,
yeah,
like that kind of.
cones or something.
Yeah,
That
we,
would
it's
help.
in the budget when you agree
Yeah.
to bring that.
Yes. Okay, so I'll copy everybody, but I'll write Larry an email, unless somebody online, Yo. please.
So I was also there last year and I'm pretty confident that they could do it in an, like, as Mitchell was saying, in an area of the park without having to close the entire park. It's a pretty small setup last year. The other thing is that I would ask them, you know, they have reference to Parks Department staff for cleanup. Given our discussions about sustainability and about adopting compostable and just asking if they could loop in the GPTF members for to see if there would be waste management, recycling, composting, et cetera, on site.
Okay,
Great point.
all right, I will add that to my message to Larry. If there are no other comments on that particular item, we will segue to reports of boards, standing committees, and officers. So let's do this the normal order. Let's see, Ken, you're up. I know you got something exciting to report about, having been busy recently.
Yes, indeed. You guys can hear me all right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, so we had the Irvington Pool Party on August 2nd, which it was a really great success. We had a full house. We had all 100 spots were filled. Most people showed up, and if they didn't, we were able to call some people off of a waiting list. And yeah, it was great. I think 100% of them were Irvington residents, even though it was actually open to the broader community. We did track where people were coming from. They could do like a resident or not resident pass. Yeah, and it was great. I actually did a survey afterwards, and 100% of them said they would want to do that again. Most of them would love. It's 80% would like to see it continue to be at Mercy. But there was also some sentiment of wanting, something more permanent, obviously. But I think generally speaking, I think it was a very positive feedback from the event in person, but also just in the survey. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have any questions. What happened?
I would just encourage you to, if you can, not that I want to put you on the front line, but I
Sure.
thought it was a good idea, well executed. And if it's something that you could do multiple events of, if you had enough people who were interested, and I think you did, where you could try it again next summer in good weather, where you try it for 3 or 4 times. I mean, I've been around long enough to have been through the "we want a pool" debates. So I'm not going to opine on that, but if you were trying to build interest, having more sessions is probably better than not.
100%. I think generally speaking, I mean, even if we were going to build a pool, it wouldn't be years from now, and that's a lot of money and a lot of conversation. So I think in the meantime, I think it is safe to say, like, I think it's a good direction to go. So no, I'd be happy to try to explore that option and talking to Mercy University and then working with the Parks Department and see what they could do. But I think it would include us in thinking about if we want a budget for something like that, because it's obviously
exactly
more.
what I was going to say. If you talk to the rec superintendent, you may want to say, we want to try 3 sessions, and it's going to, here's how we'll price it in the future. It might cost X. It was not a very expensive enterprise. We also need to get Mercy to send back the signed agreement, but that's a different issue.
I actually just got a copy of it. I will forward it to you. They sent it to me. I'm like on vacation, but they sent it to me earlier today.
Copy the village clerk treasurer is all because we can't pay them until we have it.
Understood. I'll forward to everyone after this.
We're like, thank you for giving us your pool.
Yes, that's right. Okay. Anything else?
Yes, I also had a chance to speak with Superintendent Ratizik from the school board, from the schools. We had a chance to talk a little bit about some of the new policies they're implementing. I don't know if you're all aware, but there's a statewide ban on cell phones in schools, which is turning out to be very complicated. Something that I'm also facing as a New York City administrator. So that's something that I think families should be aware is coming down the pike. I think they were still working out details, so I'm not going to blow their cover on what's going to be presented yet. In addition to that, something they actually, the superintendent wanted me to pass on to the board was interested in something around Memorial Day. I know they've been, I think someone from the village had reached out to her. I'm not sure if it was you, Mayor Siegel, or if it was Larry, about doing something more with Memorial Day. And I think she's very interested in that.
You mean Veterans Day, right? Veterans Day?
No, I think it was Memorial Day.
Oh, because what I talked to her about was we only because I was actually working on a letter today. Our Veterans Day celebration will move from the morning to, I'm sorry, not Veterans Day, 9/11. Excuse me, 9/11 will move to 6:30 p.m. instead of the morning. I'm going to follow up with them anyway
That's
And
definitely not what we're talking about, but
Okay.
that may be another issue that you guys have
Understood.
discussed.
but if she
No, this
was
is around Memorial Day.
okay, fine. Either way,
it-
we're happy to have them participate.
Yeah, well,
Oh, I
there's
know
a
what
catch. There's a
you
second half to this.
got it. Okay.
I think she said that it's just very challenging with staff not being in on Monday, and so she wanted to propose something possibly on a Friday, doing like a sort of extended sort of celebration, where she could involve the school on a school day, do a huge like they could do a performance outside, invite the community. She wanted to propose that as something to consider and something that we should discuss.
Okay. And by the way, I did have a conversation with her about Memorial Day, which it pertained to, is there any way we could get your band or others involved in that?
And that's what she's thinking about.
Thank
Exactly.
you. Okay.
Can I just say one thing about that? I think because this has been coming up
Yeah.
and it's come up in other contexts. I guess come up in the context of Rocktoberfest. They just can't get their staff in on like a Saturday or a holiday, like
Yep.
which makes sense. So that like band leader just doesn't do it. And then
Yeah.
I know when we were talking, I want to say like a couple of years ago, a big part of the issue now also is that a lot of the students in band are not here. So that's the real challenge.
Exactly.
They just have a real, it's just a legit, it's not for lack of wanting to do it, you just like don't have the bodies. So, Kent, it's probably a good idea to maybe put her in contact with or the Memorial Day committee, like now, right? So they can start talking about next year and like maybe this idea of a different day, which, like maybe Friday or, celebration on Friday, that if you want to involve the school, which is similar to the 9/11 issue, right? So I have that on my thing to talk about is the wreck, but people should understand that the change from morning to 6:30 is because kids are going to school, and I know Gallagher gives an amazing speech, but no one's there to
Right. And it may let some more commuters as well.
exactly.
Right.
So just to allow the community to actually be there,
Yeah.
but it's
I mean, it's the exact same sentiment. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a good thing to put on maybe with the committee as they plan for next year.
And my
As long as everyone's okay with this direction, I'm happy to forward it on. I might need some help in getting the contact for that committee.
no problem. And the letter that I was working on was intended to go out around 9/4. Reference the change in time and the reason for the change, which you just described. I will follow up. I figured when I sent the letter, I would follow up with the school superintendent, because you're not asking the school to participate in a formal way. It's more, can you please get the message out so, that we are inviting the community to attend and that this is a very meaningful moment. So I'll figure out how to reach out to her. I take it they're back as a staff at this stage, or you just managed to meet them?
It was just the superintendent. We made the arrangement in advance. We're both administrators. Summer is better for us.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all right. That's it.
Thank you. Trustee Bloom?
Okay, so I have a report on the various activities of the Highway Department, DPW, lots of repairs, sinkholes, milling and paving, safety. In addition, I know that John, you had met with Todd related to the flooding on July 14th. I had met with Todd and a resident as well in relationship to the flooding that happened, and thinking about just, knowing that Larry kind of coordinates all the village departments, but we were thinking about a way to coordinate so that when we have kind of big village events that are impacting a lot of residents, that we are kind of creating like a timeline and like going over like how the different departments like police, water, fire are working together, along with input from residents and the board to ensure that we are doing the best job that we can in responding to these events. So that is for DPW.
And just to close that loop.
Yeah.
I think Larry was in favor of it, but wanted to let Charles get, acclimated, and then they can figure out how to best do that. Maybe it is just a staff meeting that, board members listen into or something.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know the best format to do that in, but I think that it would be useful if we do have a major event to kind of go over timelines and look at what was happening and what different departments might need in terms of support from the village. For the fire department, they had their monthly meeting on July 24th, which I attended. They had 44 calls as of that date for the month and 236 calls year to date. They were also talking about the flooding as they were the responders to what was happening, and they also submitted several videos about flooding in various locations in the village. As I'm sure you saw, John, in their note to you, but they reiterated that they feel it's important to remain in the Main Street area, which would solidify their ability to respond to residents and emergencies. And let's see, they were also happy about the capital budget and the truck and items that had been approved. And then lastly, I was able to attend the steering committee meeting for the Green Policy Task Force. They meet quarterly, not the whole task force, but the steering committee members to, review their different areas of responsibility and give updates as to what each of them are working on. So they were talking about emergency preparedness plans, and there is a zombie part 2 coming up, which actually ties into mutual aid for neighbors in the event of village emergencies. They're working on zero waste for county events in relationship with Westchester County, and then also, as we know, have a proposal into the board for Irvington for zero waste. Let's see. A lot of updates on the various events that are held to clean up the aqueduct and to do plantings of native plants in those areas. And then updates about the repair cafe and those efforts. So, yeah, I think that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
The library, the program room in the library is now equipped with a hearing loop, which allows individuals that have hearing aids, most of them are equipped with telecoil and T-coil, that allow them to hear better. It's like an amplification of what's going on the screen. I happen to be at the board, not happen to be, I go to all the board meetings, but at a board meeting last year, there was an advocate who spoke to the board about this, and it's great the board was able to get this done. So that's a big thing. So if anyone, if you have friends or family who use hearing assist, it's a big deal because it means they can now go to these things. So please check that out. As far as the tree preservation committee, they're working on a website page for the village website that has suggestions for trees that are friendly and with pictures and descriptions and things like that. I've seen a prototype of the website. I think it'll be really helpful for property owners as they look to whether they're new people or whether something happens on their property and they need to, whatever it is, it's a great resource. And last but certainly not least, I have sad news that obviously you guys know about, but Greg Allen, who's been the theater manager for 11 years, I believe, resigned. His last day will be the end of this week. And I just think it's important that people know the amazing work that Greg did. He transformed the theater into a professional operation. The before and after is really striking. And I just think that, I just wanted to take this moment to kind of note that on the record that he will be missed. He did a really great job keeping things going, working so hard during when the theater was dark during the pandemic, putting on events outside and finding other places to do it. And, I just want to recognize 11 years of really amazing work. And I think in the history of the theater, he'll be looked at as someone who really stepped the theater up a level. And I'm sure in the future, hopefully we can do that again. But really, just amazing work by Greg. And sad, and we're gonna miss him and wish him the best in his.
I completely agree with you. Great job, and he did it in tough circumstances with COVID and other things intervening, and he will be missed. Trustee Ray?
So from the Parks and Rec, registration is underway for the following fall programs. We ask at register.capturepoint.com/Village of Irvington. Music with Mark, ballet, youth and adult bands, cheer clinic, flag football, soccer clinic, ultimate frisbee, fashion design, running clinic, Little Fox drop-off program, explore cooking, and adult meditative drawing. The August calendar for the Senior Center is available on the village website. The 9/11 Memorial Service will take place Thursday, September 11th at 6:30 in Steve Hudson Park. And then save the dates for the fall events. For Oktoberfest is Saturday, September 27th at Mount Pleasant Park. The Harvest Hayride is Saturday, October 18th at Mount Pleasant Park. Halloween window painting is Saturday, October 25th along Main Street. The Halloween parade is going to be Sunday, October 26th. Peter K. Oley Turkey Trot is Sunday, November 9th. Okay, and have a report from CJ Riley, Board of Woods, for the Nature Center.
Sorry, Arlene, I could barely hear you. Can you move the mic?
This is okay. Better?
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So. Okay. So the Nature Center Summer Internship Program hosted 10 Irvington High School students this summer, engaging them in land stewardship and applied ecology in the Irvington Woods. Their work included NYSDEC tree planting, Cornell University projects, the pollinator surveys, agroforestry, and data analysis, Harvard forest research, participation in real-time ecological studies, trail maintenance, ground support, invasive species removal, environmental education, and applied stewardship. This program's it's in its 5th year, and it's giving students meaningful opportunities to contribute to their environment while building skills in ecology, teamwork, and civic responsibilities. They had summer interns, agroforestry highlights. This summer, interns transformed invasive Norway maple trees into sustainable agroforestry demonstration sites to show the community the benefits of growing high-value mushrooms. They grew shiitake, oyster, and lion's mane on invasive hardwood logs. Homeowners can easily adapt these methods in their own backyards. It was supported by a grant from the Greater Irvington Land Trust. And the students purchased materials to begin cultivation and have inoculated over 800 logs to date. Okay. This Friday, 12 to 1, the interns are going to host a shiitake mushroom demonstration at the ONC. Community members can sign up at the village's class. And the Woods Committee is working on the deer vegetation study. It's led by Zoe Hamilton and it's guided by Dr. Danielle Begley Miller. The IWC has begun year 2 of the deer vegetation study, assessing regeneration and native vegetation rates across 8 plots in the Irvington Woods Park, and which is going to be important to give us feedback on the deer management. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Clerk Treasurer's report and maybe stand in for Village Administrator.
No report for either of us.
Okay. No problem. Village Attorney.
No, I just wanted to correct something I said earlier. I said the parking district, the northern border was Station Road. That's the southern border. The northern border is Matheson Park.
Got it. Thank you very much. I guess next up would be public comment. Anybody? No takers. Fine. then I am going to make a motion to go to executive session. What we will do, give us like 5 minutes because I want to reset the chief's expectations in terms of timing. We're a little bit ahead of where I expect to be. But within 5 minutes, I'll sign on to the Zoom and I'll just put you on my computer. We'll do what we had to do and then you guys will drop off when the time comes for the follow-up. All right, so it's 8:12, let's say around 8:17. Sign back on and we're good. Thank you.
We just need a second for the meeting adjournment.
Oh, yeah, oh,
To adjourn to executive session.
Adjourn to
yeah, I'm
executive.
sorry. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?